So if you are a developer or someone who spends a lot of time working in the terminal, you need to hear about what Google just dropped with their Gemini command line interface. This is not just a minor update, this is a massive transformation that changes how we interact with artificial intelligence directly from our terminals. So the Gemini command line interface is basically a tool that allows you to access Google's most powerful AI models right from your terminal. No need to switch between different applications or open your browser every single time you need AI assistance. Everything happens in one place where you are already doing your work. What makes this especially exciting is that it is completely open source and entirely free to use. You get up to 1000 requests every single day, which is honestly more than enough for most developers. But this update, if you wanted to use different tools, you would have to constantly switch between your terminal and other applications. Maybe you are testing an API in Postman, then you jump into your code editor, then you check some documentation in your browser. It becomes this fragmented experience where you lose focus and waste time. But now with these extensions, you can bring everything into one unified space. Your entire development workflow can exist within your terminal alongside your AI assistant. The way these extensions work is actually pretty brilliant. Each extension is built on something called the MCP. This is a standardized way for external tools to communicate with the Gemini CLI. What this means in practical terms is that any service or tool that support MCP can now integrate seamlessly within your terminal. The extension package all of this together in a lightweight bundle that teaches Gemini exactly how to interact with that specific tool. Let me give you a concrete example of what this looks like in action. Say you are working on a project and you need to test your API endpoint. Normally you would open Postman or some other API testing tool, set up your request, run your test and then go back to your code. But with the Postman extension for Gemini CLI, you can do all of this without ever leaving your terminal. You can scaffold entire request collection, run tests and analyze results all through natural language commands. You just tell Gemini what you want to test and it handles the integration for you. And Postman is just one example. The extension marketplace has already integration from major companies and services. There is support for Stripe if you are working with payments. There is a Figma integration for designers who want to work with design systems. You have database tools like Elastic for searching and analyzing your data. There is even Dynatree for getting real-time insights into your application performance. The ecosystem is growing rapidly and the best part is that it is open source so anyone can contribute. Now let me show you how simple it is to actually use these extensions. The installation process is very easy. You literally just type one command. You type Gemini extension install followed by either a GitHub URL or a local path to the extension you want. That's it. The CLI handles everything else. It downloads the extension, configures it properly and makes it available for you to use. No complicated setup, no configuration file to edit. Once you have extension installed, using it also very straightforward. You can list all your active extensions at any time to see what tools you have available. You can enable or disable extensions based on what you are working on. And if you want to see exactly what capabilities an extension provides, there is a command that shows you all the tools and functions that extension bring to the table. This level of transparency is really helpful because you know exactly what Gemini can do with each tool. This also includes something called context file. These are special documents that provide Gemini with detailed instructions about how to use a particular tool or follow specific workflow. For example, if you install an extension for a database system, the context file teaches Gemini the best practices for querying that database, how to handle errors, and what patterns to follow. This means Gemini does not just have access to the tool, it actually understands how to use it effectively. Let me talk about another major update that comes with this release. Google has significantly improved the custom command system. Custom commands were introduced a few months back, but they have been enhanced dramatically. Think of custom commands as reusable shortcuts that you can create for tasks you do repeatedly. For instance, imagine you are building a web application and you regularly need to deploy updates, run tests, and then check your monitoring dashboard. You could create a custom command called deploy that automatically executes all those steps in sequence using the appropriate extensions. one command triggers your entire development pipeline. That is the kind of efficiency gain we are talking about here. Another thing that is worth mentioning is the documentation. Google has released comprehensive documentation for Gemini CLI. This was something that was missing before, and it made it harder for people to fully utilize all the features. But now there is a complete docs site that walks you through everything from basic installation to advanced features. If you want to learn how to build your own extensions, there are guides for you. If you want to understand how MCP server works, that is covered too. The documentation is well organized and easy to follow. Speaking of building your own extensions, this is where things get really creative. The extension system is designed to be developer friendly. You can start with pre-built templates for common use cases, or you can build something completely custom from scratch. The structure is straightforward. You can create a directory for your extension, add a configuration file that defines your MCP servers and context files, and then package it up. Once you have done that, you can share it with the community or keep it private for your own use. Let me walk you through the actual setup process because I know some of you will want to try this out. First, you need to make sure you have Node.js installed on your system. Once you have Node ready, you open your terminal and run the npm install command from Gemini CLI. This installs all the necessary packages globally on your machine. After the installation completes, you start the CLI by simply typing Gemini in your terminal. The first time you run it, you will need to authenticate with your Google account. This is a straightforward process that happens in your browser. Once you are authenticated, you are ready to go. The authentication is completely free, by the way. You do not need any paid subscription or API key. Google is making this accessible to everyone. When you first launch Gemini CLI, you will notice that you have access to the Gemini 2.5 Pro model right out of the box. This is one of their most advanced model, and having free access to it through the Gemini CLI is honestly incredible. You can start asking questions, requesting code assistance, or working on projects immediately. But to really unlock the power of this system, you want to start installing extensions. Let me show you a practical example. Say you want to install the Chrome DevTool extension. You would go to the extension marketplace, which is essentially a GitHub repository with a list of available extensions. Each extension has an install command that you can copy. You paste that command into your terminal, and within seconds the extension is installed and ready to use. You can verify it running by the extension command, which lists all your active extensions. Once the extension is active, you can see what tool it provides by using the Ctrl+T command. This brings up all of the available tools from that extension. For the Chrome DevTool example, you would see tools for navigating to URLs, clicking elements, taking screenshots, and more. You can then use these tools just by asking Gemini in natural language. For example, you could say open my project homepage in Chrome and take a screenshot. Gemini understands what you want and uses the appropriate tool from the extension to make it happen. Also, if you look at the GitHub repository for Gemini CLI, you can see that the team is actively improving this tool. There are frequent updates with bug fixes, performance improvement, and new features. There have been so many commits refining different aspects of the CLI. This tells me that Google is committed to making this a best in the class tool, and they are responding to community feedback as well. Also, we are still in the early days of AI-assisted development, and tools like Gemini CLI represent where things are heading. The ability to have an AI agent that understands your code bases, can interact with your tools, and operate in your natural working environment is transformative. As more extensions get built and the ecosystem grows, this becomes even more powerful. So that is what I wanted to share with you. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please like and subscribe this channel, and I will see you in the next video.